Silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. What if the most powerful force in your life right now isn't action, but pause? Not movement, but stillness. Not speaking, but silence. We live in an era where volume is equated with value. The louder someone is, the more attention they get. The more we talk, the more we feel heard, or at least seen. But underneath the noise, have we lost something? Why are the wisest people often the quietest? Why do those who truly know speak less? Why do the most grounded souls, the most centered minds, the most impactful leaders move with calm and speak with care? Maybe it's because they've discovered what most people haven't, that silence isn't a void. It's a mirror. It shows you things noise never could. Silence isn't weakness, it's refinement. It's presence without performance. It's energy without display. It's choosing to listen deeply in a world obsessed with talking. Think of the ocean. Its surface may rage, but deep beneath, it is vast and still. That's the kind of silence we're speaking of. The kind that doesn't shout, but transforms. The kind that doesn't chase, but attracts. The kind that isn't loud, because it doesn't need to be. But here's the real question. If silence is so powerful, why do we avoid it? Why do we fill every empty space with sound, with screens, with stimulation? Why does sitting alone in a quiet room feel unbearable for so many? Because silence reveals. It strips away the distractions, the noise, the masks, and what's left is you. Raw, honest, unfiltered. And maybe that's the very place transformation begins. Because in silence, you remember. You remember what matters. You remember who you are. Not the version you perform for others, but the one that's always been there, underneath it all. The world will keep telling you to speak louder, move faster, do more. But silence whispers something else. Something softer, something wiser. It asks, what if the breakthrough you're searching for isn't in the next idea, the next plan, the next push, but in the pause between all of it? What if the strongest thing you could do today is stop, not to give up, but to ground yourself, not to retreat, but to return to clarity, to presence, to the quiet power that has always been within you. This isn't about isolation, it's about intention. It's about reclaiming the space where your voice, your energy, your purpose can breathe again. So before we go any further, ask yourself, when was the last time you truly sat in silence and listened? Not to the world, not to the noise, but to you. Because sometimes the most important conversation you'll ever have happens in complete silence. Part 1. Stillness is where creativity begins to bloom. He left everything behind, the city, the meetings, the noise. Just a backpack, a notebook, and a small cabin buried deep in the mountains. No Wi-Fi, no phone signal, no distractions, just the sound of wind through the trees and the slow rhythm of his own breath. Most people thought he was running away, but in truth, he was returning to something he had almost forgotten. That man was Steve, a product designer and creative strategist who had worked with some of the world's biggest brands. For nearly a decade, he had been living the dream, or at least what most people called success. He had the titles, the teams, the TED Talks, the packed calendar. But over time, something began to shift. His work started to feel hollow. His ideas, once vibrant and bold, now felt forced and recycled. He was always moving, always producing, but nothing felt alive. He described it as creative suffocation. So one day, he stopped. He disappeared. And for 30 days, he lived in near total silence. No content, no creation, just solitude, just stillness. He thought he was burning out. What he discovered was that he had never truly been alone with his own thoughts long enough to hear them fully. He journaled, he walked for hours, he sat by the fire and stared at nothing. And slowly, the noise inside him began to settle. And from that silence, something new emerged. Ideas he hadn't touched in years resurfaced. Connections he never saw before started forming. He began sketching, scribbling, designing. Not out of obligation, but out of curiosity, out of joy. When Steve returned, he didn't just come back with a refreshed mind. He came back with a blueprint, an entire new concept for human-centered design that is now being adopted in dozens of innovation labs worldwide. And when people asked him what inspired this sudden breakthrough, his answer was the same every time: silence gave me back my imagination. It's a simple truth, but one that most of us overlook. Silence isn't the absence of thought, it's the space where thought can grow. We often think of creativity as chaotic, messy, energetic, and yes, it can be. But true creativity, the kind that shifts paradigms, often begins in the still, quiet spaces. The pause before the idea, the breath before the breakthrough. Let's break it down. Idea, conflict, evolution. The idea. It rarely appears in a meeting room, sandwiched between emails and notifications. It arrives when we least expect it, in the shower, during a walk, while lying awake at 3 a.m. Why? Because in those moments, our brain is relaxed. The pressure is gone, the mind is free to wander. But in today's world, we're rarely bored. We're rarely still, and boredom, once seen as a problem, is actually the birthplace of brilliance. We face the conflict, the noise, the external pressure to perform, the internal urge to prove, the constant barrage of content, updates, opinions, advice. There's no space left for the idea to breathe. It gets buried under a mountain of distractions. We confuse consumption with creation, activity with productivity, but scrolling is not thinking. Reacting is not imagining, and so we hit a wall. We say, I'm stuck. I have no ideas. I've lost my spark. The solution isn't to push harder. It's to clear the space. That's where evolution begins. When we remove noise, we create possibility. When we remove pressure, we create permission. And when we return to silence, we return to imagination. Your brain has a powerful mode called the default network. It activates when you're not actively focused. When you're daydreaming, walking, staring at the ceiling. It's the mind's natural problem-solving engine, and it only works when we stop filling every second with stimulation. That's why some of your best ideas come when you're not trying. Because silence opens the door for them to enter. Think of it like a garden. If you plant seeds in rocky, noisy soil, nothing grows. But when you clear the space, nourish the ground, and wait patiently, life begins to emerge. Roots grow where no one can see. The process is quiet, invisible, sacred, and suddenly, one day, something sprouts. Your creativity works the same way. It doesn't need more input, it needs more space. It doesn't need more pressure, it needs more presence. We often romanticize the idea of the creative genius who works in a frenzy, surrounded by chaos. But more often than not, the genius is the one who knows how to disconnect, to go quiet, to sit in the silence until something deeper rises. Beethoven walking in the woods with a blank page in his pocket. Maya Angelou renting a hotel room just to be alone with her thoughts. Steve Jobs taking long, silent walks to think through decisions. These weren't random habits, they were sacred rituals of stillness. And what if we brought some of that into our own lives? What if, instead of filling every gap with noise, we protected our mental white space? What if we scheduled silence the same way we schedule meetings? What if 5 minutes of stillness each morning did more for our creativity than any podcast or productivity hack? Because silence doesn't just quiet the world, it clears the path within you. So today, instead of reaching for another tab, another notification, another distraction, try reaching inward, not to force brilliance, but to make space for it. Because the most powerful ideas don't come from thinking louder. They come from thinking deeper, and depth requires quiet. Let silence do what noise never could. Give your mind back to you, and in that stillness, watch your creativity bloom. Part 2. Silence and anger is the highest form of wisdom. It started with a single sentence. One ordinary Wednesday morning, right before the big quarterly meeting, Emma walked into the office 10 minutes late. She had spilled coffee on her shirt, her phone was already buzzing with unread emails, and her head was still spinning from an argument with her partner earlier that day. She sat down, trying to collect herself, when her manager, in front of the whole team, said with a smirk, "Nice of you to finally join us." The room laughed. Emma didn't. Her heart raced, her face flushed, and then, without thinking, she fired back. A sharp comment, a sarcastic tone, a cold glare. The energy in the room shifted. The manager froze, the smiles disappeared. And in just 10 seconds, everything changed. Later that day, Emma replayed it all in her head. The embarrassment, the silence that followed, the awkward glances, the email from HR asking to chat. She knew her reaction wasn't professional. But in that moment, it felt justified, like she had to say something, to defend herself, to push back. What she didn't realize was how much that one outburst would cost her. A strained relationship with her boss, a sense of unease among teammates, a reputation for being difficult under pressure, all because of 10 seconds. We've all been there, maybe not in a boardroom. Maybe it was with a friend, a partner, a sibling. Someone says something that touches a nerve. You feel cornered, disrespected, misunderstood, and before you know it, you're in the middle of a verbal explosion. Defending, accusing, raising your voice, losing your cool. In the moment, it feels like power, but afterward, it always feels like loss. So what's really happening here? Let's break it down. The problem is emotional hijack. When we're angry, our brain shifts into survival mode. The prefrontal cortex, a part responsible for logic, empathy, and long-term thinking, goes offline. The amygdala takes over, fight or flight kicks in. And suddenly, we're not responding like the calm, thoughtful people we usually are. We're reacting like threatened animals. That's why, in the heat of the moment, we say things we regret. We speak not from clarity, but from defense, not from truth, but from wounded pride. The agitation comes from what follows: regret, distance, guilt, sometimes even shame. You apologize, but the words are already out there. You replay the argument. You wonder if they'll ever look at you the same. You feel out of control, not just of the situation, but of yourself. And the worst part, it keeps happening. Because the world keeps giving us reasons to get angry. People will provoke. Deadlines will push. Relationships will strain. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf them. So what's the solution? Silence. Not the cold, passive-aggressive kind, but intentional silence. The kind that holds space, not resentment. The kind that pauses to protect, not to punish. Let's switch gears. Same scenario, same Wednesday. Same Emma. She walks in, late, rattled, tired. Her manager throws the same comment. But this time, she breathes. She feels the anger rise, but doesn't react. She says nothing. Not because she agrees, not because she's weak, but because she's strong enough to wait. After the meeting, she pulls her manager aside. Calmly, privately, she says, "Hey, I get it. It was a joke, but I've had a rough morning, and that didn't land well. I just wanted to let you know. No explosion. No damage, just clarity, just dignity." And here's the shift. She didn't lose power, she owned it. Because silence in the moment of anger isn't suppression, it's strategy. It gives you time to breathe, time to think, time to choose who you want to be, instead of becoming someone you don't recognize. We live in a world that glorifies instant reactions. Clap back, drag them, speak your truth, now. But not every truth needs to be spoken in the heat of the moment. Not every feeling deserves a stage before it's understood. Sometimes, the most powerful sentence is the one you choose not to say. So how do we build this kind of inner pause? Step 1. Notice the shift, the tension in your shoulders, the quickening heartbeat, the urge to interrupt. These are not signs to act, they're signs to stop. A red light in your nervous system saying, wait. Step 2. Name the feeling. I'm angry. I feel disrespected. This hurts. Naming calms the storm. It brings the prefrontal cortex back online. It gives you your power back. Step 3. Choose your response. Sometimes that means walking away. Sometimes it means journaling before speaking. Sometimes it means breathing, just breathing, for 10 seconds before you reply, because 10 seconds of silence can save 10 days of damage. And over time, this becomes a skill, a superpower, really. You become known as the one who doesn't crack under pressure, the one who listens when others lash out, the one who speaks with purpose, not out of pain. That's what emotional maturity looks like. Not absence of emotion, but mastery of it. Emma learned this, not overnight, but over time. Each time she paused instead of reacted, her confidence grew. Each time she chose silence over explosion, her leadership expanded, and eventually, people noticed. Not because she was loud, but because she was solid. So here's the invitation. The next time you feel the fire rising, stop. Let it burn quietly, without consuming you. Step into silence, not to avoid the conflict, but to meet it with calm. Because true power isn't in how quickly you respond, but in how wisely you do. And sometimes, the strongest voice is the one that waits. Part 3. The wiser you are, the less you speak. It doesn't make sense at first. We're taught that the smartest people are the ones who speak the most, who have all the answers, who lead the conversations, dominate the debates, and take the stage. But again and again, reality tells a different story. The most intelligent person in the room is often the quietest. Why? Because the more a person knows, the more they understand how little they actually need to say. They've seen the chaos that comes from speaking without thinking. They've learned that real strength isn't proven through words, it's revealed through presence. So let's begin where all paradoxes start, the contradiction. Why is it that the people who have the most to offer say the least? Start with this: confidence whispers, insecurity shouts. When you know what you're capable of, you don't need to perform. When you trust your mind, your silence becomes intentional, not empty. This is the why. Highly intelligent people speak less because they've discovered something essential. That speaking isn't always communicating. That being heard isn't the same as being understood. And that presence, grounded, thoughtful presence, often speaks louder than noise. They're not trying to win the room. They're trying to understand it first. Because when you rush to speak, you miss what's being said beneath the words. But when you listen, really listen, you begin to see what others miss. They've also learned the cost of careless words. Words shape perception. They reveal what you know, but also what you don't. Every time you speak, you expose your thinking, your clarity, your logic, your bias, and when you understand the power of words, you start using them with precision, not abundance. Now, let's move to the how. How do intelligent people practice this kind of silence? There are 3 habits they often embody. Habit number 1, they listen first, fully. They don't interrupt. They don't wait just to speak, they observe. Because they know that understanding the landscape before offering insight makes their words land deeper. Habit number 2, they think before responding. It sounds simple, but in a fast-paced world where everyone is trying to be the first to comment, they are comfortable being the last to speak, and the one most remembered. They pause. They reflect, even if it means a few seconds of awkward silence. They know that clarity takes time, and that time is worth it. Habit number 3, they choose substance over noise. They don't need to prove themselves with volume. Instead, they let their ideas carry the weight, quietly but powerfully. This brings us to the what. What does this actually look like in real life? Let's talk about Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft. In meetings, he's known for listening more than speaking. He asks questions that others overlook. He doesn't rush. He doesn't dominate. He absorbs, then delivers insights that shift the room. It's not charisma, it's clarity. Or look at someone like Malala Yousafzai. When she speaks, it's never loud or aggressive. But every word lands with weight, because she's not performing. She's choosing her words like a sculptor carves marble, with care and purpose, even in the tech world. Elon Musk, for all his eccentricities, often pauses a long time before answering. People misinterpret it as awkward. But he's thinking, calculating, considering, and when he finally responds, it's often something no one else saw coming. Quiet minds move differently, and it's not just global figures. Think of someone you know personally. Maybe it's a colleague who always listens during heated debates and then says one thing that cuts straight to the truth. Or a friend who doesn't talk much in a group, but when they do, everyone stops to listen. Their value isn't in how often they speak, but in how deeply they observe before they do. It's easy to confuse loud with smart. But intelligence often lives in restraint. The smartest people know that the best answers come from the best questions. And the best questions come from stillness, not noise. So what can we take from this? Maybe it's time we unlearn the idea that speaking more means knowing more. Maybe intelligence isn't about flooding a space with thoughts, but reading the space before adding to it. Maybe wisdom isn't found in rapid responses, but in deliberate silence. In meetings, take a breath before you speak. In conversations, listen without preparing your next argument. In conflict, hold your words until your heart settles. In creativity, let the silence stretch before the idea arrives. Silence isn't absence, it's preparation. It's not the void before brilliance. It's the womb where brilliance grows. We live in a world that rewards noise. Algorithms push content. Attention flows to those who shout. But if you watch carefully, the people who truly shape things, the real thinkers, builders, leaders, are often the ones who speak with purpose, not just presence. Because when you speak less, your words carry more weight. When you pause, your thoughts gain more depth. And when you stop performing, you start creating meaning. So here's the paradox. The more you know, the less you need to say. Because intelligence doesn't need applause. It needs alignment. The quietest person in the room might just be the one carrying the answers everyone else is shouting for. And when they finally speak, the room listens. Part 4. Maintain inner stillness amidst life's storms. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine standing in the middle of a forest just before dawn. The air is still. Mist curls around your feet like soft breath from the earth. A single bird begins to sing, not loudly, just enough to remind you this world is alive. You take a deep breath, and for a second, everything is quiet. Now imagine carrying that quiet with you into your workday, into your relationships, into the chaos of modern life. What does it mean to stay calm in the storm? Not to escape it, not to pretend it doesn't exist, but to be within the storm and still not be moved by it. Every day, life throws us waves. Some are small. A missed deadline, a delayed train, a rude comment. Some are massive. Heartbreak, illness, uncertainty about our future. We can't stop the waves from coming. But we can learn how to float. We can learn how to breathe. We can learn how to remain centered, even when the world feels like it's spinning too fast. So what? Why does inner calm matter? Because when we lose our center, we lose ourselves. We react instead of respond. We carry stress in our bodies, tension in our shoulders, a tight jaw, a shallow breath. We speak words we don't mean. We rush decisions we're not ready to make. And little by little, we forget what peace even feels like. Stress becomes the default, stillness feels foreign, and silence almost frightening. But peace was never gone, it just got buried under noise. And here's the quiet truth, your calm is not on the outside. It's not found in the perfect schedule, the clean inbox, or the balanced budget. It's already within you, waiting, wanting to be remembered. So how do we return to it? Let's begin small. Imagine a lake. When the surface is choppy, you see nothing beneath. But when it stills, it reflects, it reveals depth, clarity. You are that lake. And your thoughts, your emotions, are the wind. You cannot control the wind, but you can learn not to follow it. Start here. One breath, just one. Inhale through the nose, hold, exhale slowly through the mouth. Feel your body soften, your jaw unclench, your shoulders drop by just a few millimeters. In this one breath, you've returned to yourself. This is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the noise. Your calm self is not passive, it's not weak. It's wise, it speaks when it's time. It rests when needed, it listens more than it reacts. You've met this part of yourself before. When watching the ocean, or staring at the stars, or holding someone you love without needing to say a word, that's silence, that's stillness. That's you. Now what? How do we keep this with us? In the meetings, the arguments, the morning rush, we create small rituals of return. 5 minutes in the morning, no phone, no news, just silence. A short walk after lunch, noticing the rhythm of your steps, pausing before you answer that message. Closing your eyes for a few seconds before entering a difficult room, noticing the sound of your own breath. These aren't luxuries, they're lifelines. Calm isn't a spa treatment, it's a daily decision. It's choosing over and over again not to let the storm become you. It's trusting that you can hold space for the noise without letting it drown your presence. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people who have found their center and who live from it. You don't need to retreat to the mountains. You just need to find quiet moments within the life you already have. Peace is portable. It travels with you, into traffic, into conflict, into uncertainty. And the more you practice holding it, the stronger it becomes. You begin to walk differently, speak more thoughtfully, react less, reflect more. People notice, they ask, "How are you always so calm?" And you smile, because you know it's not magic. It's not perfection, it's practice, it's breath, awareness, choice. And slowly, gently, you become the still point in a turning world. Not untouched by the storm, but unshaken by it. So the next time life begins to swirl, don't rush to fix it. Don't drown in it. Pause, breathe, anchor. Because deep down, beneath the noise and the fear and the pressure, you are already calm, already enough, already whole. All you have to do is return. Part 5. Silent success endures longer than loud victory. No one noticed when he started. No celebration, no big launch, no viral announcement. Just a man in his late 20s, working quietly in the corner of a co-working space. Hoodie pulled over his head, laptop glowing, coffee half finished beside him. His name was Scott. At the time, no one knew him. He didn't try to be known. While others chased headlines, funding rounds, and press coverage, Scott built in silence. No marketing team, no personal brand. No noise, just code, just consistency, just belief. Every day, he showed up at 6 a.m., again at 8 p.m., weekends, holidays, rain, burnout. He showed up. He wasn't chasing attention, he was chasing alignment, with a vision only he could see. People doubted him, of course. They said he wasn't moving fast enough, said he should put himself out there. Said startups were all about speed and noise, but Scott knew something different. He wasn't trying to explode, he was trying to endure. He believed that slow success builds deep roots, that the tallest trees are never in a rush, that while others sprint to be seen, he would walk to be remembered. He had no roadmap, only intuition, no mentor, only mistakes. But in that quiet space, he found something the noisy world rarely offers. Depth. 2 years in, he released his first product. No fanfare, no PR agency, no grand opening. Just a single message in a small online forum. Hey, I built something that might help. And people came, slowly at first, then steadily, then all at once. Because when something is real, truly real, it doesn't need to scream. It resonates. His users weren't just customers. They were believers. They didn't come for hype. They came because what he built worked. It was simple, elegant, thoughtful. Like Scott. By year 4, he had quietly bootstrapped a multi-million-dollar company. He never took outside funding, never threw massive launch events, never tried to crush the competition. He just kept showing up, kept building, kept listening. And when asked in an interview why he stayed so quiet through it all, he simply said, "Loud success looks good for a moment. Quiet success feels good forever." That line stayed with me. Because Scott isn't just a person, he's a reminder. A living metaphor in a world that equates visibility with value. He is the mountain beneath the fog, unmoved, even when no one sees it. He is the tree growing deep roots before ever blooming. He is the craftsman in the candlelight, refining what others will overlook, polishing what most will rush. And maybe we all need to be reminded that the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people building something real, even if no one's watching. We're addicted to performance, to metrics, to likes, to applause. But what if applause is just an echo? What if the real measure of success is what remains when the audience is gone? You see, Scott's success wasn't an accident. It was a result of deliberate obscurity, of choosing the long road over the fast lane, of prioritizing craft over clout. His silence wasn't absence, it was presence. He was too focused on becoming to bother with appearing. And there's something deeply powerful about that, because loud success is often fragile. It's built on perception, on trends, on external energy. But quiet success, it's built on process, on purpose, on internal momentum. Quiet success doesn't crash when the market shifts, it adapts. Quiet success doesn't panic when no one's watching, it keeps going. Quiet success doesn't burn out, it burns steady. And what Scott built is still growing, not in the headlines, but in hearts. Not in viral charts, but in real impact. Not in noise, but in meaning. Maybe you're in your silent season now. The chapter where no one claps, where no one sees. Where you're building, healing, learning, struggling. And no one knows. It's easy to think you're behind, that you're missing out, that louder people are further ahead. But trust me, the ones who build quietly often rise the strongest because they're not swayed by applause. They're anchored by vision. You don't need to go viral. You don't need everyone to understand your path. You just need to keep walking. One step, one breath, one silent win at a time. Because real success doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be true. And when the world finally turns its head and asks, "Where did you come from?" you'll smile, because you know, you didn't come from nowhere. You came from within, from silence, from presence, from the quiet work no one saw, but you never stopped doing. Silence has always been there, not as a void, but as a presence. Not as the absence of sound, but as the presence of self. And maybe now, more than ever, we need to return to it. We began this journey with a simple idea, that silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. We explored how silence births creativity, protects us in moments of anger, reflects intelligence, anchors us in chaos, and quietly builds the kind of success that lasts longer than any applause. And now we arrive at a moment that isn't about learning more, but about remembering. Remembering that inside you, beneath all the noise, there's a still place, untouched, unshaken, undeniably yours. The world will continue to shout. It will try to rush you, provoke you, sell you a faster path, a louder voice, a noisier version of success. But you don't have to follow it. You can choose something different. You can choose quiet power. The kind of power that doesn't need to prove itself. The kind of power that listens before it speaks. That breathes before it reacts. That creates from truth, not trend. Because silence is not an action, it's intention. It's knowing when to hold back, when to pause, when to go inward, so that when you step outward, you do so with clarity and strength. Think about it. What if the next breakthrough in your life didn't come from grinding harder, but from sitting still? What if the solution you're searching for isn't out there, but waiting to rise in the space you never give yourself? We are constantly stimulated, constantly connected, but connection without reflection becomes chaos. And silence, real, conscious, chosen silence, gives you something priceless. Perspective. It slows down the storm. It clears the fog. It reminds you of what actually matters, the people, the values, the calling. The voice inside that's been whispering for years, but you were too busy to hear. So here's your invitation. Not a challenge, not a demand, just a quiet offering. Start practicing silence. Not for an hour or a week or to escape, but as a rhythm, as a return. 5 minutes a day. No noise, no scrolling, no performing. Just you, sitting, breathing, listening, and over time, you'll notice the world may not change. But you do. You become slower to react, quicker to understand, more grounded, more intentional, more you, and people will notice. They'll feel it in your presence, in your eyes, in your words, few but full, because you're no longer speaking to be heard. You're speaking because you've listened. You've listened deeply, to others, to life, to yourself. This is not the end of the journey. This is the beginning of a quieter, stronger one. One where you don't rush to catch up with the world, because you've finally caught up with yourself. So when life gets loud, choose stillness. When others speak to impress, choose silence to connect. When the pressure builds, breathe, listen, wait, and then, when the time is right, move. Not to be seen, but to be true. If this message found something in you, some small voice, some forgotten truth, hold on to it, protect it, let it grow in silence. And when you're ready, share it with someone who needs it, with someone who's drowning in noise, looking for a breath of quiet. Leave a comment, share your own experience with silence, not because you need to speak, but because someone else might be listening. And if you want to walk this journey further, subscribe. We're building a quiet revolution here. One breath, one pause, one word at a time. Because in the end, it's not how loud you are that determines how far you go. It's how clear, how grounded, how centered you are. And sometimes, the ones who walk the farthest start in complete silence.